We're adding an aftermarket clutch and slave cylinder to our manual transmission swap, but we want to make sure we've got the right air gap. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the air gap, explain what it is and why it's so important. We're also going to show you how we measured the air gap. So what is the air gap? So here we got our clutch fully assembled to the flywheel. We've got our pressure plate and the clutch fingers. Now you can see here, these are the actual clutch fingers, and these have a leverage of 6:1 in our case. So when your slave cylinder pushes against these, in our case 9mm, at the other end it's releasing the clutch by 1.5mm and allowing you to change gear. So that's great. The air gap then is what we want to talk about. So if you set up the clutch slave cylinder like this, it will probably work initially okay, but the problem comes with wear. Now, as the clutch becomes thinner, as it wears, it becomes thinner, these fingers aren't pushing down quite as far, and because of the lever action, they actually start to raise out of the assembly. So the air gap or wear gap is actually to account for all that wear, or the maximum wear. And in the case of this clutch, it's 1/4 inch. So when you set your cylinder, you need to make sure you've got enough to cope with the wear of the clutch plate. Let's talk quickly about why the air gap could be a problem if it's small or if it's large. If the wear gap or air gap is too small, these fingers won't be able to come out as the clutch wears. Thrust bearing will actually prevent the clutch from clamping and engaging. So you're going to get clutch slippage and premature wear, and your clutch will not last as long as it's supposed to. If the air gap is too big, you do have a risk of actually pushing the cylinder all the way out and releasing fluid all over your clutch. So you need to make sure you get that good balance and you set the air gap correctly. Before we move on, I want to just mention about the two types of concentric slave cylinder you can get. This fairly simple one and the sprung loaded one, which we're going to use. Now there is a bit of a misnomer that with the sprung loaded ones you don't need to worry about air gap. Actually, that's incorrect. The only difference between the two is the sprung loaded one has a spring sat in between the body and the piston, pushing it up and making sure the bearing is in contact all the time. However, as you can understand, you need to get the setting of the air gap just right for this to work properly, just the same as the simple one. Now, the only reason this bearing cylinder doesn't pop off all the way, because I don't know whether you can see there's a slight lip, there's a pressing inside the end with a slight lip holding that bearing in position. This bearing I've got is the same one, but I've actually blown it off the end. You can see the metal pressing I was talking about, and I've literally, by over pressurizing the slave, I've blown it off there and I've got brake fluid everywhere. I don't know whether you can see, but out of interest, the bearing assembly and the actual piston are different components, which is one thing worth noting with these sprung loaded slave cylinders. The bearing and the piston are two different components. So don't think because this is a fixed assembly, somehow you've got some protection from having your air gap or wear gap too large. It's clearly not the case. Traditionally, to measure the air gap, use a datum point, normally the edge of the bell housing, and you measure from that to the thrust bearing contact point that contacts the fingers, and on the engine side, the edge of the bell housing mounting face to the clutch fingers. But obviously in this case, the gearbox is out of the car, so we can't do that. In our case, we've noticed that the the pilot bearing is sitting on this pilot diameter, and we're assuming it's butting up against the splined edge. So then we can actually use this face as a datum point and measure from that to the thrust bearing, and then on the flywheel measure the inner race of the thrust bearing just here to the top of the fingers, and that's what we're going to do. To do that, we're going to use a straight edge, in this case a steel rule. I'm going to drop that on top of the fingers, and you can see it's just resting on that. I'm then going to take a caliper and measure from the steel rule down to the bearing. So after lots of checking and rechecking, the figure I'm happy with is 69.3, and that takes into account the 1mm thickness of the rule. That's 69.3. I'm going to zero that on the caliper and release it, and then I'm going to measure from the shoulder to the bearing. What am I getting there? So I'm getting 7.31 millimeters. So that's basically an air gap of 7.3 in inches, 287 thousandths of an inch, which is over a quarter of an inch. So a slightly more accurate method, I've bolted the angle line onto the gearbox, and I'm going to measure from that to that face 8.4, zero that, then measure from the angle iron to the face. We're getting 75.33. So we need to deduct that from the 69.3, and we're getting 6 mil. So here's the theory I'm working on. So we've been testing the clutch release. We've used a piece of angle iron to stop the clutch being pushed out of the bell housing. So in theory now, at this point, the clutch release bearing is sat against the clutch fingers and at its normal sort of position for the clutch. So in theory, if we can remove the clutch now and make a note of the position of the thrust bearing and then push it back as far as it can, that the difference between the position it's in now and the position it's furthest retracted is the air gap. So let's take it apart and let's have a look. I could actually use one depression of the clutch pedal to help push this out, but then that would defeat the object because we're trying to retain the current position of that thrust bearing. So this is quite heavy. If we can get this out. Oh, it's coming, it's coming. All right. Oh. Right, we got that off. Boy, is that heavy. We'll put that to one side. Right, so if you come in here with a camera. Right, okay, let's have a look. So I've got a caliper, I've zeroed it for the current distance. That's 0. Or near as damn it. And now I'm going to push that back and then measure it again. And in theory, that is our air gap, 6.64 millimeters, which is just over a quarter of an inch. which I think is what we're looking for. In summary then, both the measurements and the practical testing of the air gap or wear gap, we're getting a result of circa 1/4 inch, 6-7 millimeters. So it looks like our clutch and slave cylinder will be set up correctly, so it's a bit more reassuring. It may actually be slightly larger because we're assuming that the clutch is contacting that point on the input shaft where the bearing sits. It might actually be further inboard, but it's in the right region, and I've got every faith. The actual slave cylinder has a little bit more travel, so there's no danger of it popping off and breaking and leaking fluid into the clutch. So yeah, very happy. Check the air gap and it's within the spec. So there you go. That was video MT37 in our series of XK8 videos showing how we converted our Jaguar XK8 from automatic to manual transmission. In the next video, we're going to shelve the mechanical side for a little bit and get into the electronics and the manual control module. So Glenn has sent me some instructions as how to test the manual control module on the floor with a 12-volt power supply, and we're going to see if we can calibrate the gear position select sensor. So that'll be interesting. That's what we intend to do in the next video. Anyway, hope you're enjoying this series as much as we are. Please like, comment, share and subscribe for more XK videos. Bye-bye.